Hey all, welcome to the 32nd video I'm doing. So this week's video is going to be on Aspie's autistics, but at least from my point of view, Aspie's, and how we're 7 times more likely to face abuse. Abuse in the way of physical, emotional, mental abuse at the hands of our parents or our partners or friends or society or whatnot, other people, or crime, or so on and so forth. I'm going to use a few personal examples and why that may be. But a quick update. Number one, my daughter is due within the week. It is now Saturday, the 2nd of February, and she will 1st of February, and she is due on the 4th. And if she's not here by the 4th, that's Tuesday. My fiance is right there. Tuesday. Then they will schedule her to be, my fiance, to be induced, and so our daughter can come to the world, whatnot, Friday. So things are going to catch up. Second update, we got engaged. Got our lovely 3-gem sapphire and silver engagement ring. It's beautiful. She hasn't taken off since she got it yesterday. I proposed before we had the ring because I was smart enough to know that she's picky about her jewelry, and so I got her input. I couldn't exactly get her input and keep it a secret, so I proposed and then went shopping for a ring. It was the smart way, and she seems really, really happy with it, so it works. So to the video. We are, according to sources, and I knew them yesterday and today I forget. I know that I read one on a Department of Justice for the United States government website. I know that I've read it in other places, and blind me if I just can't remember where they are. So the reasons for it are multiple, and it's not just us, by the way. It's anybody with a disability. I've heard the same thing from. I have some family who are severely bipolar, and the same thing from them. I have a friend who spends a lot of his life in a wheelchair due to a leg issue. I've heard the same thing from him. So basically anybody with a severe enough disability that it pinches them on a major life function, being in a wheelchair, emotional control, social engagement, cerebral palsy, if you are schizophrenic, so on and so forth, etc., 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 you will face abuse. And so, the more severe the disability, the more often you face it, to the point that it's like 7 times. So, raised as I was Jewish, and being an Aspie, I've had as I've mentioned on Tumblr and Facebook and Twitter, I have faced more discrimination in the Western U.S. being an Aspie than I have being Jewish, and I have heard that to be roughly, nobody has informed me that they are more likely to encounter discrimination being Jewish than they are being an Aspie. Not a lot of Jews, therefore not, I mean there's only 15, 16 million people in the world who identify as Jewish right now, so conversely not a lot of Aspies. There may be more Aspies in Mexico City than there are in all of Judea. So anyway, so to the 7 times issue. Because we are, my theory, and I'm basing this on some research I've read, my hypothesis is that because we are unable to read facial expression, body language, vocal tone, and therefore the overall global social situation we're seeing, we are unable to escape or extricate ourselves from circumstances that would lead to poor outcomes. The other day we had a guy around here who gave me the huge creep factor, but it was a little bit, and I was like, well, maybe I'm reading this wrong. But he gave my fiance the huge creep factor too, and we politely lied to the guy, got him out of here. But if I hadn't had her there, I wouldn't have been 100% on the fact that this guy was bad news. And she was getting she just mentioned to it afterwards, were you getting the bad sense from him? I'm like, yes. So that's basically why it happens. A few good examples from my own past that I think on retrospect I could have avoided. I was a courier for an international company. I delivered packages. I had a man pull a gun on me not in a bad neighborhood, but in a fairly rich neighborhood. The guy literally exploded in anger, and he did something where I would have been forced to either call it in as a felony or prevent him, and I thought it was something stupid. It was part of the USA Patriot Act, and it was one of the little clauses that affected us couriers pretty heavily and wasn't really mentioned in the law. And I stopped him, and he assaulted me, and he later pulled a gun on me, and we had the man arrested for an assault with a deadly weapon. And, geez, I'm going to sneeze, and it's not happening. Excuse me. There we go. So that's one instance. Another instance was I ended up moving north of town to one of the valleys that lie north of where I live, in with a man who later proved to be all kinds of messed up. He literally got stomach cancer from drinking too much. He had somewhat of a record. He ended up moving in a former crystal meth addict who was about as stable as an upside down D4. For those of you who don't game, I'm sorry. It's upside down Caltrop. And the things went bad, and he ended up calling the police on me, accusing me of assault with a deadly weapon because, quote, I own a sword and he felt threatened by me. And when the police asked him, did he ever threaten you? He said, no. They said, where was the sword? He goes, I don't know. So the police came and they talked and they asked where my sword was. It turned out it was like 30 feet away at all times. I never threatened him with it. And the police asked me to leave, not because I was a danger to him, but because he was a danger to me. And they couldn't stay there all night, and they felt that I was in danger. So I left, and I went and slept on somebody's couch. And I moved out 2 days later. And I'm pretty sure I could have avoided that had I been an NT. I wouldn't have moved in with that guy, because he would have set off the, oh, there's something wrong with your alarm. I had a roommate who, only after I'd written the first rent check, admitted to me that she was a felon for identity theft and check fraud. Now, the only reason why I felt later good about having written her a check was because my handwriting is piss poor. It's very hard to copy. Number two, I could track her down if she frauded me. There'd be a paper trail, which turned out to be useful later. She ended up taking my money and not paying the rent, not paying the bills, not paying anything. We had our power. The power was shut off shortly after I left. We had no heat because she couldn't figure out how to light the pilot light, wouldn't tell me. We had no entry gate code because she hadn't paid the rent in over a month and she wouldn't tell anyone. And if she went and contacted the landlord, she's afraid she'd get evicted. She ended up getting evicted by the landlord after I talked to the landlord, and, you know, things like that. Let's see. I had roommates, both were children, even though they were in their 30s and 40s. And one was an alcoholic. I had an abusive ex-girlfriend. So on and so forth. You know, I roomed with a drunkard. We had a borderline personality woman who accused me of assaulting her because after she had moved out, she prevented me from getting in my own house, and I pushed past her. I just gently pushed her aside and went inside. When she accused me of all these things and the cops got the story out of her, and she went, well, he lives here and I don't, but I really should live here, so therefore, and the cop said, go away, lady. You're annoying us. Get. And they turned to me and they went, you know, we're sorry. So these are stories that I've shared with other Aspies who have said they have their own nasty stories. I have talked to people who are in wheelchairs who have their own nasty stories. So if you're an Aspie, okay, this is not something specific to being an Aspie or an autistic or on the autism spectrum, unless you live outside the United States, then you're not on the autism spectrum, or something, or it's arguable, but it's not specifically being an Aspie, it's being disabled. Being disabled does it. And by disabled, it means you could have a broken leg, and you could be on crutches, and in the moment you get a broken leg, and you're on crutches, boom. You could be the most badass guy in the world. You know, you could be Jane from Firefly, but because you're slower and you're not going to chase him down, you're an instant victim. And this just happens. So I'm sorry all, but that's the truth. You should be prepared to be victimized. It may or may not happen. It might happen. It probably will happen. 7 times more likely, however, can be funny. What if everyone's chance is 1% and ours is 7 times? We're now at 7%. But it wouldn't surprise me to find out that the same reasons that cause us to be victims 7 times more often are the same reasons why we're unemployed 80% of the time. So, anyway, have a good week. Hope the video helped. It's really more of a, gee, it sucks to be us video. There's not a lot you can do about it. Work on your Mushin, work on your Zanshin. These are no mind and situational awareness. And just do your very best to avoid these situations. And knowledge is power. Now that you know that you're more likely to be a victim, maybe you can do something about not being in the situations that could cause it, because more often than not, from what I'm seeing, you have a chance to escape, and it's before anything blows up. So good luck to you. Have a great week. We're gonna go off and do things. Talk to you later.